Welcome everybody to Heighten Your Sixth Sense with Shaun Green. I got Mr. Paul Malott. He is by way from Michigan, but he resides in South Carolina, right?
That's
And
right, my man.
so basically, you are a doctoral candidate, an AI expert who is empowering small and medium-sized businesses to compete with larger firms by leveraging open source AI tools. With over 14 years of experience in supply chain management, AI implementation, he is here to share how small business can harness AI to automate, reduce costs, and drive growth. So, welcome to the show. First time meeting you, and we had, we talked for a little bit just to, catch up and get to know each other. For first we were kind of worried about the signal, but everything worked out. It's like it smoothed out. So, but again, I'm happy you're here, and just welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. I appreciate being here, man. And the 10-minute conversation beforehand was awesome. I appreciate you putting up with me and the glitchy computers, right? I wish you call me an AI expert. I don't claim to be a guru or an expert. I'm very interested in the topic, but I can't solve things like shitty bandwidth,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, man. But it's one thing we have to fight through these days because like we were saying, like sometimes it get on and it works great, and sometimes it don't work at all. So you just never know.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
imagine now everything is digital, 5, 10 years from now. The pace of technology change is
Mhm.
incredible, right? Like one of Google executives, somebody far, far smarter than me and more
Mhm.
successful than myself, was
Mhm.
basically saying that 30 years of change is happening in three. And when you think
Wow.
of technologically, right? When you think about
Mhm.
that, that's incredible. That speed is insane. So
Yeah.
I don't think that like these little bandwidth problems are going anywhere because
Mhm.
because automations, one of the things they try to solve are these connections between all the different AI and different systems, right? I mean, a
Mhm.
Google O authorization, when you're in something and it says, would you like to sign on to Google? And you say,
Mhm.
yeah, that's essentially an automation in the background, right? And you
Yep.
sign in with your Google credentials. I mean, that's what makes automation accessible to everyone,
Yeah.
right? Is the fact that you can link and connect things very quickly with something like a no code or low code platform like make.com, right? But it doesn't do anything about the individual integrity of the systems themselves, right? The
Mhm.
application you're using. So you could have OpenAI and Perplexity and Claude and 10 other AI language learning models built into an overall automation, and
Mhm.
any of those could fail, right? And I
Yeah.
think I'm saying that because it's not going anywhere, technical problems. And
Exactly.
people are worried about losing their job. And I'm to that I say, yeah, you probably should be, right? I mean, if
Mhm.
if AI is very competent in doing things, and AI is also a threat to certain positions, and using AI is something that everybody should get familiar with because you're going to upskill and you're going to find these unique opportunities like this bandwidth shit that we were
Mhm.
dealing with, right?
Mhm.
Where you can use AI to solve that problem eventually. And so, we're
Yeah.
presented with problems and another door opens.
Yeah. So how can, like, say a person that has no knowledge of, of AI or really tech savvy at all, what are some ways they could break through those barriers of, like, maybe learning, certain things about AI to maybe get a job, or start a new trend, or wherever it may be.
Yeah, no, good, great question. So, ChatGPT, right? I mean, it's the belle of the ball.
Mhm.
It's basically the first mover advantage of artificial intelligence organizations, in particular language learning models, right? And I would say go play, right? Go have fun, create a sandbox and dig in that sandbox and make mistakes, right? And
Mhm.
in fact, talk shit to the AI if you want,
Yeah.
and teach you who's boss, But for real, in a way, you have to treat it like I treat my 3-year-old children. I'm very direct. I explain what I want 10 times in 10 different ways, and I finally get
Mhm.
what I want, right? And people have this idea that AI is a magic wand or a catch-all be-all solution. And
Mhm.
it's really not. And you start to understand just the workings of it and really what it is simply by playing with it and familiarizing yourself with it. And
Mhm.
things like these large language models where your chat, they're driven by conversations, totally conversational. Those are the perfect models to begin your journey in AI with because you simply have a conversation. You need
Yep.
zero coding or technology knowledge other than maybe where you don't even know where your fingers go on the keyboard. You can just put,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
need to, right? So It's
Exactly.
really easy to get fairly good information out of it. And the more you use it, right, the more you'll see reap the benefits really. And you'll start getting better answers
Mhm.
and so on.
How can small business effectively implement open source AI tools to streamline operations and reduce costs?
Great question. I mean, the first thing that I always recommend for any small business owner, or even if you're a functional leader, director, VP, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you look for the low-hanging fruit. You identify by process mapping what you're doing, what your team members are doing, and what's adding value, right? I love
Mm-hmm.
the two words together, value proposition.
Yeah.
What is your company's value proposition? It should equal, where you're getting your return on investment, where you're getting
Yeah.
most of your return. And the simple act of mapping out how you're doing things today, it's huge in
Mm-hmm.
terms of understanding where you can implement effectively artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And while you're doing that, and if you're learning about these tools and you're starting to identify these niche tools that can maybe be
Mm-hmm.
inserted into certain processes, then you're doing the right thing, right? So it's really a parallel approach. What are you doing today? Don't blind yourself into continuing down that
Yeah.
path. Think openly, right? I tell people you kind of have to think like my children and be curious, right? Don't go
Mm-hmm.
sticking the scissors in the outlet in the wall, and in the plug and shocking yourself. But think, be curious. Try something different, and don't just because you've been doing it that way for a while, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. Maybe your business was
Yeah.
founded on the way that you're doing something, right? It doesn't mean it can't be done better, right? And don't forget,
That's true.
we're not in business to just to keep doing business. I think some people
Mm-hmm.
love it, but those people are
Yeah.
freaks. You know what I mean? I mean, I
Yeah.
like working, I work hard, but I have a life, right? I work to live,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm pretty sure it's really hard. I know, and the stats say that, right? It's hard for people with our mentality, like who hustle, who
Mm-hmm.
break down barriers and go through walls. It's hard for us to stop,
Yeah.
right? And but that's I'm working so that I can stop, right, and relax. I think.
Have an exit like, I think these days a lot of businesses when I look at listen to different podcasts and different documentaries stuff like that, it seems like more people are getting the business these days starting a business with an exit plan.
Yeah,
In-
yeah.
instead of like, well, we're gonna work at this for the next 40 years. Most people are like, okay, we're gonna go hard for this for 10 years and then we're gonna
I'm getting the
this the
hell out of
goal.
here. I'm done with it, right? I'm never looking
Yeah,
back. But and
yeah.
and that coincides with the really interesting, not even a phenomenon, but really interesting statistics where smaller size organizations are
Mm-hmm.
worth way more, and an example is icon.me, the company that does
Mm-hmm.
AI videos, right?
.me. Okay.
Icon.me, yep. And they're doing 100 million, this is back in February,
Mm-hmm.
$100 million a month in recurring subscription revenue. And it's
Wow.
eight people, eight
8
people,
people?
8 people in the company. So, but when you think about it, and you bring up the great point that people don't start companies today
Mm-hmm.
with the idea that they're going to live in that company and then pass it on to their children.
Yeah.
It started with like, what can I do to get it and get out, right? And they're doing that all by themselves. It used to be when you're building a company, you kind of rely on people smarter than you.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's tools that are as smart as you or as supportive as those people could be, and if you know how to use them well enough, right, you're
Mm-hmm.
getting the same kind of the same results with less risk. You know.
Yeah. You need less people. Yeah, I guess
Yeah, it's
less.
true. It's true, but I don't see a problem with that because again,
Mm-hmm.
it's back to the niche solutions.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much opportunity for all of us to do everything we ever wanted, right?
Yeah.
That we're probably going to pursue doing what we want, and there's probably a solution to get what we want, and that's
Yeah.
okay, right?
Yeah, it definitely is.
If you can sustain yourself off of making a product that, I don't know, clips my toenails, I'll be happy to not bend over and clip my toenails once a month. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
bit of capitalism, and as long as you're making something with virtue, right? You're
Mm-hmm. Some integrity.
yeah, integrity. Then
Mm-hmm.
you're not. then there shouldn't be anything wrong, right? Inherently wrong with what you're doing. It's
That's
really
true.
always how is the tool used, right?
Yeah, like I say, as long as it's like ethical and moral, it's
Yeah.
you're doing it for a good heart, good purpose, for a good reason. You're not out here trying to cheat or get over somebody, scam or nothing like that. What are some of the most accessible and impactful AI tools that small businesses can start using today?
Well, I mentioned ChatGPT. Perplexity is really cool. I like Perplexity.ai. I like it a lot because it has a lot of impact for those entrepreneurs and all of us. We feel like we have to be online, right? You have to create
Hmm.
content, and you feel
Yeah.
like shit if your content gets 2 likes or something and you put
Hmm.
2 hours worth of effort into it. I use Perplexity to understand the trends of the day, right?
Okay.
So, and Perplexity is different from GPT in that it's a RAG type model, and it will openly search the latest information that it can
Hmm.
find on a particular
Okay.
topic. Where GPT is trained on data that has a cutoff date. So when you're asking
Hmm.
GPT for information, it may have not been updated after January 1st of 2025. You're going to have a little bit of a lag. So for
Okay.
real-time information, Perplexity.ai is very effective. And they
Real
also have
time.
a
Okay.
capability inside the little, triggers and whatnot you can change. It also
Hmm.
gives you the capability to specifically search just socials, right? Just Reddit, just the Reddit forums, just all the different social media platforms. And that way you're really ensuring that you're getting what's trending. You're not just, going out on the web and pulling information in. Perplexity
That's
is
cool.
good. I use typeset.io for research. Typeset.io,
Hmm.
very good for research. And paraphrasing information, right? I say it's
Hmm.
good for it after I just said I can paraphrase it 10 times and it gives me an AI result. But it works. I mean, it's better than asking GPT to paraphrase itself,
I
So
got you.
sometimes if I'm working on making a paper make sense to me, or I've lost my ambition to write this thing, I'm using the combination of those three tools for one paragraph, and
Hmm.
I'm taking an answer from one and I'm plugging it into the other with my questions. And then I'm going back
Okay.
and plugging it into the other with the questions. And it's just a second way to validate, right? But those three tools are really my favorite.
That's
And then
pretty
you
cool.
have make.com. It's Make, Zapier, and N8N.
Hmm.
N8N is the free version of those three.
Okay.
And
You said make.com? Make.
make.com,
Hmm.
Zapier, Zapier,
Okay, I heard of that
and
one.
yep, and N8N. N8N being the free version of workflow, right? It's now we're talking automations.
Okay.
Completely different than AI, but you can make automations that involve AI.
Okay.
In my opinion, making an automation that involves AI is the best approach to implementing AI in your business today. Not just because that's how I make money for a living, but
Hmm.
also because I really believe in the idea of a building block technical stack for you as an entrepreneur, being
Okay.
able to plug and play with minimal risk and not have these giant enterprises like Microsoft telling you have to use 365 every time you buy a computer. I believe in a personal tech stack
Hmm.
where I'm going to have a very customized support system digitally in 5 to 10 years. Yeah. And I think that everybody else may have something very similar. And for that reason, go for it. Enjoy
Okay.
diving into an N8N where you learn how to plug and play with different AI in a system, right? And you
Yeah.
can, and it gets really complicated from there. Not complicated, but fun. Because now
Yeah.
you can start to train your AI automatically, right? You create a system that's not necessarily left to right, where you have an action and then
Hmm.
something happens and this happens
Yeah.
and your output is an email or something. When you're working with automation system like N8N, you can have that sequence happen and your end sequence is basically
Yeah.
feeding back in to the original, right, database or your original system and
Hmm.
supporting it learning and growing. So you're building, think about the power of that. You
Yeah.
can train
That's
10
cool.
models inside of a system to be Shaun Green, and have your
Hmm.
attitude, right? And
Yeah.
your approach to business. And you don't have to worry about the guy without the drive or guy who doesn't know the math, right? You
Yeah.
can train those to be effectively your digital twin. And then you're basically instilling that drive and motivation across the board in your business, right? And when it comes to branding and marketing, oh, that's huge. That's huge.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. So you said you can basically create your own personal tech stack. That think you said a minute ago?
Yeah, yeah. So if you
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Okay. So I guess explain that from in a way. I guess maybe the users, I mean the viewers can maybe understand it, like on their level. Not saying because they might not understand the way you do.
Sure. So
Mhm.
another way to say another way people say it today is assistants, right? You have a GPT assistant. Now,
Mhm.
and if you're I could argue that because I have a conversation with GPT, I'm using it as an assistant, right? It's providing
Exactly.
results, it's giving me content.
Mhm.
Now, imagine you have three GPT assistants, right?
Okay.
Each of those assistants are talking to each other.
Sure.
You make that communication happen with make.com or N8N. And you
Okay.
and you by connecting those three systems or those three AI assistants
Mm-hmm.
with N8N and controlling that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
you're essentially building that personalized tech stack, right? So you can have an assistant that is HR, you can have an assistant that's finance, and you
Mm-hmm.
string them together, right? And
Gotcha.
they support one another. That's
Okay, that makes sense.
that's the best explanation I could come up with.
No, it makes sense though. It makes sense now. So I know we talked a little bit about like ethics and risk and stuff like that. So what's the way like a small business can like manage like the risks and ethical concerns of adopting it and merging that guy into their process, adopting it.
Yeah, yeah, great question. It's about implementing in short sprints, right? It's not
Mm,
about eating the elephant whole. You got to start bit by bit and
yeah.
locate that low-hanging fruit where
Yeah,
you're going to get an easy win.
that's true.
Never don't go jumping in the deep end if you don't know how to swim, right?
Hmm.
And I think that that's it's honestly a big challenge right now because one, we're assaulted with we need AI every day, right? I'm
Hmm.
telling you we need AI. I'm selling the greatness of it, right? We're bombarded with that. And then there's the other part as business owners, your competition is using it, right?
Mm.
And the truth is, if I don't start today, I'm going to fall behind, right?
That
If
is
I
that's
don't
true.
adapt, I'm going to fall
That's true.
behind. So you're kind of forced into that, but you have to temper yourself
Hmm.
by not going and getting the $200 GPT subscription right away because you want AI, right? You need
Hmm.
to do your research, do your due diligence, do what you
Exactly.
can to shrink that information gap so you know about the tools that are out there first and foremost, right? Then you
Yeah.
can start having intelligent conversations around what's going to be the best tool for that particular process you want to attack or
Hmm.
that pain in your ass that you want to get rid of, right? Those are
Exactly.
but that's what you got to focus on. You
Yeah.
don't just take the bat and swing at it, because of
Hmm.
the hype. The hype is real, but you,
Yeah.
you still can't take a bat and swing at it. You've got to pace yourself.
That's true. So, like, what are the top AI trends you feel for like small businesses that should be aware of to stay competitive, in the next, 5 years? I know you said it's like it's moving like every 3 years, it's changing, like the AI.
30
Yeah.
years of change in three, right?
Okay.
But the way, again, it's education, education, knowledge is power. So the more you
Mm,
know, the more ready you're going to be and to adapt to what's coming
mm,
your way technologically. That's always paramount is, immerse
yeah.
yourself in it when you can. And that way you're not going to be, stuck flat-footed, but and curiosity, right? I mean, you have to have a
Yeah.
genuine willingness to learn.
That is true. I can see like I know you was talking about like in the future people like using AI, for maybe a different career or a job or something like that. But see, I can see in the future like different business they probably have a in-house AI expert just to help them with their because it's growing so fast
Yeah.
to to watch implement stuff and to maybe change the stuff that are already implemented to keep up with the
Yeah,
with the
I
competition.
actually and I'm glad you helped me answer your question and I realize now I didn't answer your question very good. But
Hmm.
That's one of the trends I think that should happen
Mm-hmm.
is a center of excellence, so to speak, right? Each organization should have a digital center of excellence that manages and continually updates their workflows, right? And when I
Mm-hmm.
think of that happening, I'm limited by my own blinders, and it happens through automations, right? And you have a
Mm-hmm.
automation specialist that's in your facility, or you're using an agency to support all of these workflows, right? That's a very real possibility, and very
Yeah.
soon to see that kind of center of excellence being instituted in small companies and bigger companies in each
Yeah.
function, right? So now
Mm-hmm.
now you have, speaking from my procurement experience, I have procurement domain expertise, right?
Yeah.
I've been in procurement for 20 years. I have domain experience and expertise. There's going to be a need for people with procurement and tech domain
Mm-hmm.
expertise, right? Because they're going to be the guru that you just mentioned
Mm-hmm.
that's managing that for that function.
It makes sense. I mean, because I can see businesses, they always going to do whatever they can to have that edge, and that's going to keep them
Yeah.
growing. Yeah.
Yep. If you're
Because
not doing it, your competition is, dude.
yeah, because if you're not, because you always want to maximize, I guess your means of making more money. That's true. So how
100%.
can how can a small business turn their existing data into actionable insights using AI?
Great question. I think big data, small data, data is data. And
Mm,
3 years ago, big data was a big term because using all the information that's available and gaining insight from it
mhm,
is was just at the top of mind. But I think with small businesses, it's just as critical to consider your data and what you can glean from it, right? What you can learn from your small bits of data that you may already have. If you're not collecting information, you should. I highly recommend it because you can learn a lot from it. And AI is a really good tool to save you the time that it would usually take, go through the process of collecting the data, and go through the process of drawing contextual information out of data too, right?
mm,
So, I mean, any digital presence, you can use it. And I'll give you examples. You have a LinkedIn account or an Instagram account. Some of the things that my organization can do with like Instagram, for example, we could support your business in honing in on your brand by looking at other Instagram accounts that are similar,
mm,
watching, scraping essentially the comments on their profiles, right? And then
yeah,
drawing information on what posts were most successful, what were those posts about, how can we make them more successful, right? How can we
mhm,
intertwine them with today? And then have a very pointed, social media post rather than just throwing something out there, right? So
yeah.
and
That makes sense.
that's the type of reinforcement that is actually we're able to level now. It used to just be big businesses that could
Hmm.
leverage that data, right? That they were collecting. But now data is available to everybody. We now
That's
have our
true.
own internal data that we can get a lot more information out of,
Hmm.
right? That's specific to our value add. And we have these tools that are cheaper and cheap enough to allow us to start drawing personalized messages, contextual information from it. And that's really leveling the playing field with the big dogs, right?
That's true. So, what are like common misconceptions that small business have about AI?
Oh, well, I mean, it's costly, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there is an idea that artificial intelligence of quality is too expensive. That's not real,
Mm-hmm.
and open source in particular, meaning the source code is made available to you
Hmm.
as a user, and you can modify it if you want for free, right? There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
enterprise, no paywall. There's a lot of strong tools, right? A lot
Hmm.
of cheap and very strong tools. And so you don't have to break the bank to do automations and integrate artificial intelligence. You can do it on a budget of a on a bootstrap budget, right? Where you need to allocate
Yeah.
and get every penny, squeeze the booger out of Abraham Lincoln's nose, push the penny as hard as you can,
Yeah.
right? But there's ways to implement it when you're doing that. And
Yeah.
and the other misconception is that well, it's too hard, right?
Yeah.
I
Which
don't
is
know
not. Yeah.
technology, I don't need it, or it's not safe, or it's going to have a mind of its own. It's all lies, right? It goes back to what we were talking about. You can use a tool. I can hit the wrong thing with a hammer and go to jail. You know what I mean? Or I can build houses with it, right? And so AI is very much the same. It's more about the user than it is the AI itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can be dangerous. And accessibility, cost being a barrier, right? We talked about,
Yeah.
but accessible, and it's there. It's available to you now, right? You can reach out and grab it, and you can implement it in just about any business. So the other misconception is, well, I'm not digital. I don't need it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you probably don't need it as much as somebody like me who,
Yeah.
runs primarily off of digital solutions, right? I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
literally need all these things to operate. If you're a landscaping company, you absolutely can use it, right? You can use it
Oh,
for
definitely.
scheduling, you can use it for calling, you can use
Or
it for
design.
data collection. Yeah. So it's usable in any industry. It's agnostic to industry,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the final misconception is that AI, it's the opposite of the other one. AI is going to solve all my problems. Give it to me,
Yeah.
and not every small business owner has this understanding, but there's a belief that it's going to solve problems that it can't solve.
Yeah.
And these are coming from big businesses that I work with that are, banking industry. They want AI to do to develop products for them. And what I'm telling them is like, hey, I love where you're thinking, but it
Yeah.
can't do that right now, right?
Yeah.
It's just not feasible. So reasonable expectations, right? You have to, the end all be all with that is just
Yeah.
have a reasonable expectation for what you're setting out to do, and have a goal and a target for implementing AI. Don't make it be, I'm going to implement it in every process of my business. Start small where you can achieve something.
It's really been a really good company. I've learned a lot. I got a whole page of notes. So I've learned a lot of different tools I never heard of. So I think everybody, once they hear this, they really gonna, it's gonna help people, get them to the
Yeah, well,
next
I mean,
level.
I'm glad to hear that. That's exactly why I get on
Mhm.
here and talk my ass off. I appreciate you and your audience for listening to it here. And
Yeah.
please, if anybody has any questions or comments or anything they want to chime in on the
Yeah.
conversation, I highly recommend it, right? I mean, fantastic
Yeah.
conversation from my side too. I appreciate you, man.
That's pretty good. Where can people like, where can they follow you? Where can they, check out your work? What
Sure.
you're
Also,
doing?
the automations24.com is my organization's website, and then generally automations24 for the socials, right? I'm trying
Okay.
to get this pretty mug out there more often, and spread
That's
some love about some of these quick wins, right? Things like we talked about and just general findings. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm going through all this with everybody too, right?
yeah.
So please have the conversations, bring up the tools and
Mhm.
experiment. We're all doing it.
Yeah, well, that's a good route to go, man. I mean, much love, and much of best of luck to you and you and your family and your businesses and everything you have going on.
Yeah, thank you very much, man. Same to you. Same to you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and it's been a really good conversation. And like you said, this is another great conversation on how you six sense with Shaun Green and Mr. Paul Malott, man. I hope we can connect again, in the near future, and and see the growth of each other. It's really pretty good, man.
Yeah, you got it, dude. I'll be more than happy to.
Yes, sir. All right, well, God, we'll check you guys on the next episode and see you guys next time. Much love. Peace.